Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the S1E5 emergency episode. And today I'm going to cover one of my favorite wrestlers. It's not CM Punk, it's one of my favorite childhood wrestlers, The Undertaker. Now, probably you're wondering why did I make this title thumbnail. It's not a clickbait, it's one of my mini rants that we have to cover. So, if you're not in the knows or not deciding to watch wrestling news, so the issue at hand is actually that The Undertaker's wife, Michelle McCool, who is now with him and doing the very, very popular podcast, and The Undertaker has been refusing politely and being under the nose that he has no influence in the WWE, even though he's one of the greatest of all time to do it. And it's not that I have problem with with having those privileges within the company when your husband is one of the greatest of all time. He has a shit ton of influence that he can do, as Stevie Richards had mentioned in his not podcast with when he had it, and he mentioned that he has been watching that same guy. I'm not taking away, before we get into this mud, I'm not taking away any singular modicum of success that The Undertaker has achieved on his own and managed to become the best of the best of the best. Now, the mic skills are something in the brackets or a disclaimer. That's up to you wrestling fans to decide his promo skills, but I think they were amazing. Gothic, Kafka, Edgar Allan Poe, whatever the fuck. Anyway, back to the issue at hand. So we have been experiencing this issue when people who are very influential in WWE, they tend to say those things. I remember Triple H's documentary when he said him being married to Stephanie McMahon has nothing to do with his success in the WWE. And he said that outside of war, when he is not the Game or the Triple H or Cerebral or Assassin, when he is Paul Levesque, he is talking with his wife about something X, Y, Z has nothing to do with the wrestling company or job. Okay, sure, let's take your word for it. But even with that said, but that has been also a great influence on his career. Now, he has come to the terms of agreeing with that perception of asterisk in his career. He said in his documentary. So, but he stopped caring prior to even going to a relationship with Stephanie, blah, blah, blah. But The Undertaker, who is one of the, as I mentioned a couple of times, I'm repeating, goats of all time, now he stands to say that he has no influence when it comes to Michelle McCool. Michelle McCool, even though she's a very, looking beautiful woman, very positive personality, etc. But as a wrestling fan who has been watching this for 22 years, Michelle McCool does not have that much of a special career to be inducted in the Hall of Fame in the first place, to be honest. The angle I only remember was the bully one, when her and Layla bullied Mickie James, and what a symbolism of irony. Mickie James is being replaced by Michelle McCool. Oh, the karma. And now, Michelle McCool, who is doing that in the WWE, I understand you had humble influence in the WWE when you were there, when you were working. But being memorable prior to the dead man, on the borderline, but that's up to somebody else. Is just my 2 cents opinion on the random internet of the solipsism clusterfuck. I don't believe in solipsism. That's a topic I'm going to cover some other time. But anyway, the one thing I always hated in these sort of things, when somebody who is highly influential says they are not doing any influential things, then I would have asked Deadman to explain why the fuck is Michelle McCool brought into LFG. I understand the podcast, that's their entire 100% right to do whatever they want to do with the podcast itself. But when you bring a woman who had like a solid knowledge of wrestling, so I wouldn't say she's like the greatest advice giver, maybe to the girls, but to the male, I know, because if I was there in WWE, I would fuckers go to The Undertaker and butter the fuck out of him with 500,000 questions I have when it comes to creating a character, becoming a heel, a piece of shit, annoying people, blah, 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 etc., etc. The best 1,000 ways to piss the fuck people off. So, but I get tired when even when they love to say no influence. Yes, dude, there is an influence, and don't be humble about it. So just fucking admit it, because as we all know, who is the Undertaker, and has been doing this, had been doing that, sorry, for the 30 plus years. But not saying you're not in question when it comes to influence. I disagree, and especially you can look back at even today as we speak. So aside, if we put in the brackets Deadman and the Game, you have also Cena and CM Punk, and you're asking why. Well, tomorrow, not literally, tomorrow when Cena maybe gets bored with Hollywood, he can go back to WWE and has influence on people because he had been doing this. So he started his career in June 2002 with Kurt Angle and had amazing 20 plus year career. Kudos to that. But my point is that Cena has influence. CM Punk has and a fuck of a lot influence. So as Stevie Richards had mentioned in his podcast, it's always good and recommendable to be on their good side. Now I'm talking about Deadman, the Game, the Best in the World, Hustle, Loyalty, Respect. I used to be a Chain Gang guy, so that's 2006. But they have influence on it. So they have something to be considered or asked about. Now, if we all know, as much as Cena's retirement is coming in 2 months, as I mentioned in the previous video, but you can't help to wonder that he was protected in some sense and had influence to disrupt. And I'll give an example of SummerSlam 2010. And I know people are really having some good memories with the Nexus, and some of them said, well, Nexus was mid, blah, blah, blah. That's your opinion as well as my opinion of 2 cents, like it's internet. But I think if Cena had lost at SummerSlam 2010, it would have been given a bigger trampoline for those careers at hand. And when you look back at SummerSlam ending of 2010, him being DDT'd by Wade Barrett on a concrete floor, and then reconnecting and winning the match by a handicap. And I will always hate Vince Grandpa Darth Vader. I love to rape girls. When his excuse for what was the ending in SummerSlam aside of Cena's influence, he had said he wanted to send kids happy. Okay, that's an argument. Okay, well, you didn't send me happy when Triple H won something in 2003 and I hated Triple H, so I want my money back. You didn't make me happy when CM Punk was treated shittily in the WWE, gaslit and not taken seriously, and he lost, let's say, to Jeff Hardy one time. I want my money back. You didn't send me happy. So you see the loop line. We can go in round and round. So with this influence bullshit that they have been claiming themselves, it's kind of really facetious and it's not engaging. And I think the audience, the wrestling fans, would have respected more the fact that you have the balls to say, yes, I'm the judge, jury, and executioner, apologies. I am Judge Dredd from Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I can do whatever the fuck I want. That's transparent, and it's least, and we all know, from the old to the young and vice versa, we know that The Undertaker has had, when it comes to terms of wrestling career. So when he was on the road with you all the time, back in early and mid 2000s, and even in the early mid 90s, you pissing off Undertaker was your one trip to the guillotine of not being even pushed in the wrestling in the WWF anymore or WWE. We all know the judge's court when he's deciding your destiny, your fate. I don't believe in destiny; it's bullshit. But anyway, that's not the point. And if you had done that 20 plus some years ago, I refuse to accept the wrestling fans to be like, yeah, man, you have nothing to do with Michelle McCool becoming very influential within your ranks. And I think I mentioned either Stevie Richards or the guy, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. He mentioned she's only known for being Undertaker's wife. And that is saying something. No, I'm not taking away her accomplishments. She did some solid accomplishments at WWE, female titles. She split it with Layla and blah, blah, blah. But it's not that memorable. You can't really go back and listen from a female or a male wrestling fan saying, gee, I'm looking forward for tonight after I finish with work or with YouTube or ASMR, mukbang, whatever the fuck. Gee, golly, gee, I'm going to watch Michelle McCool versus Trish Stratus in a 5-star cage match. No. No, we're not gonna do that. That's BS. So nobody's gonna watch that. So when you say there is no influence, you're kind of negating all the things that have happened in WWE. Because to tell you the bitter truth, and this is where people are gonna get offended, and especially even if they watch from WWE, guys, if you had used your influence to prevent Chris Benoit from committing the atrocity he did, I mean, it's a controversial topic. Doesn't matter. If with your influence you could have saved him 10,000 times by already. But people always decide to use their influence for something else. Now you're probably wondering, why did you mention Chris Benoit? Well, here is a bracket, so I'm going to make just a small detour or digression. In Dark Side of the Ring, when one of the greatest Mexicans of all time in the history of wrestling, Eddie Guerrero, passed away, it had broken Chris Benoit on so many levels of integrity of a soul that he was unable to recuperate ever again, which is a really serious thing. People don't take it seriously, but when you're somebody you really love, not just saying love you like a Volt delivery for food, it crumbles you, it breaks you, and it takes you years and years and maybe never to recover from that. And he had gone on a tour on the exact same day, if I'm not mistaken, according to Chris Jericho. He went in a fucking airplane and went on a European tour, when instead, my 2 cents only, as well as some thinkings of the other wrestlers, he could have gone semi-retired, fucking going to Outlands in the Outwood anywhere and just isolate. For example, Chris Jericho was absent from 2005 to late 2007. If Chris Benoit had done that, maybe June 24 wouldn't have happened. And yes, according to the statistics, it was probably a chance for him to die of a heart attack due to enlarged heart, blah, blah, blah. But my point is, the influence can also be used to do something good and greater responsibility. But it's 2025 now, it's internet, the technology has advanced rapidly, and there are also people, sometimes even Undertaker forgets, or people who are very influential, there are people who read through BS and through any of lies. So you saying there is no influence, that's like saying, yeah, gee, guys, I know LeBron James is playing NBA, but guys, he has no influence in the basketball. He's just a random guy. LeBron James, rando. It's already BS what I said. That's like John Cena. No, there is no influence for him in WWE. Anyone can do what they want by themselves, and he is there. If he is there someday tomorrow, he's going to have an influence on what you do. So don't think if he's going to be, let's say, like a creative. I'm giving a hypothetical example. If he wants to be a creative writer, a booker, whatever the fuck John Cena's got to be, and if you're not aligned with him, like ask Alex Riley, you're not going to get far by much. So if you were not good friends with Taker back in the day, your chances were really low for you to even make it on the top of the food chain of WWE. So I love his persona for Greek for Mask when he played the greatest Undertaker of all time. And I'm probably going to say in advance, and I hope somebody prove me otherwise, nobody's going to be like the Undertaker. Like somebody needs to be now in their mid-20s, 23, 24, 25 for them to become Undertaker 2.0. Raven, you catch the drift, or catch 22. But when you say there is no influence, so why Taker should not be Žika the Electrician, it's because you're now 60. And I know you can share a lot to the new people who are coming into WWE, want to become wrestlers like you. And I've been having those wishes, but probably based on my long mouth. And, I can be like Jim Cornette combined with CM Punk and Ravens, so it's not recommendable to open my mouth because a lot of things can happen. And I can say some things that I don't mean on my mind. ADHD, whatever the fuck. The point is, Taker has been very influential ever since. And that's like me bringing, let's say I'm working WWE and I bring my friend who has nothing to do with wrestling, and he becomes like a creative writer because there are 50 of them, but still it's my influence. And influence, as I mentioned like 5 minutes ago, can bring you good and bad, depending how you use it. It's all about power and authority. So the more time passes by, the more I'm deciding to kind of distance from Mark Calloway or Žika the Electrician, because he resembles Žika the Electrician every time he opens his mouth privately. And I'm trying, luckily as an artist, I tend to separate the art from the artist, and I only see the Undertaker, and I still have those memories of childhood intact in my head. But for him, when he opens his mouth and he's, I don't want to watch that, because it can ruin your legacy. Because even with his moves he has done outside of the business, it's kind of questionable, and it's not good for your image, man. Because as I mentioned, if you're 16, you've done already so much. Just be influential in a different way, but don't say you had nothing to do with Michelle McCool. Because I know Americans can be stupid, but not all of them. And I'm not from there. I'm just saying not all of them are stupid. And you have to understand that in wrestling, there has to be like originality, or somebody that he's going to remember you for something. Like, even when time passes away 100 years from now, I think the new generations are going to remember The Undertaker, let's say The Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, The Game, Cena, Michaels, CM Punk, Jericho, etc., etc. Even Brock Lesnar, as much as we can hate, but he has done a significant influence with his physique and his personality. But that's not the point. The point is, it's about remembering. And when I say that, when I believe that we are severely getting tired as wrestling fans, we're getting older, and I think that Taker should not just pretend anymore he doesn't have influence. Because, as I mentioned, when you were not on the good terms with the dead man back in the day, when you were an up-and-coming wrestler trying to make a name for yourself, and you not aligning what he wants or to do because he was a locker room leader, my dyslexia, locker room leader, and you want to piss him off, good luck, buddy. So, to finish this video, I had to do this mini rant because I'm getting tired of people saying they have no influence, what they actually do. And this is not related to The Undertaker. It's just I'm getting tired of listening to that bullshit when it's not true. I know it's not true. And influence can be used for a lot of good or bad things. It depends how you use it. It's up to the person, so we make our own choices. So it's S1E5. Thank you for coming to this channel. And to The Undertaker, I have to say one disclaimer before I finish this video. I respect your accomplishments and your career. By far, the definition of my childhood when I hear the gong and your greatest trick that should have ended at 21-0. It's a long story. But I believe that personally, you do have a fuck of a lot of influence. And I'm not going to pretend and say to myself, no, you don't. So do what you do as your quest, man. Since you're the dead man, do a very honorable thing. Rest in peace. I'm imitating just like The Rock. So, as I mentioned and promised in the previous video, there is a new video not related to the wrestling coming on Friday. Until then, Christ is King.